it's Jessica Michaels here with a Cherry on Top Crafts. Today I'm playing along with Cherry Challenges along with a couple of my scrappy friends, which will be listed in the description box below, so make sure you check out their videos. And I am playing along with one of our Cherry Challenges that I'm actually hosting this month and giving away a $5 gift card to the Cherry on Top shop if you enter over on the message boards, and I will put that link below as well. And our challenge this month is to use a large alpha or number on your layout or be inspired by a large alpha or number. So I posted some examples on my message board post of different layouts that I have done in the past that I've used this technique. I typically take a large number or alpha like this. Today I'm using an O. I know it looks like a 0, but it's an O for my son's name, which is Otto. And I make a large photo collage out of them, or use just the large number or alphabet letter on my layout and put my photos around it. So today I cut this large O on my Cricut machine, and I actually just made the cut file myself using the outline feature in the Cricut Design Space software. If you're interested in learning how I did that and how I made this cut file, just let me know in the comments below and I will make a video and post that separately for you. So I just created a large O. I do have the outlines that are going to go on this as well, and I just cut it out of some white cardstock, and I cut this one as like the backing piece, and that's what I'm using to adhere my photos to. So I did use a little bit of a thicker piece of cardstock for this. I think it's like 165-pound weight. That sounds like a lot, but it's pretty thick. It's like a really thick cardstock. So that's what I like to use for stuff like this. That way it has a nice grip and something that I can adhere my photos to, and I can cut around them on the outside and trim them down with an X-Acto knife or my scissors or whatever I need to do, and it gives me like a nice lip on that so that I can trim out around my number or letter, if that makes sense. So I'm just using a bunch of photos of my little guy from this time frame when he was about 6 months old, and I had just a pile of just random photos left over in this particular album from 2020 that I'm working on, trying to finish up. My baby girl here keeps sliding her hand closer and closer to me and shoving me over on the left side of my desk. She wants to scrap today too, as usual. But I have all these random photos, and I wasn't sure what I wanted to do with them. And if I would have used each one of these on a layout, that would have made like 12 more layouts on my book, or however many photos are here, because none of them really go together. They're all separate. The one at the top there with his checkered blanket was actually him playing in our farmhouse. We're actually renovating it right now, as you probably know from my past videos and me rambling about it, but we're still working on it. It's been years, but we're still working on that house and trying to move in eventually. But it's just easier to live where we live now, which is only a mile from our farm, and work on the house as we have time. But with kids, it's just so hard to find time away from your kids to work on house renovations. So sometimes the kids join in, like in this photo. When he was 6 months old, we were just finishing up the framing upstairs because we actually took the second level of the house off completely and raised all the walls and the roof up because they were very, very low ceilings. So we raised all of that up and made it higher and put more support in for the rest of the house. So this was him laying on his little blanket with his little play mat thing above him, and he was just having a blast and enjoying the time with us. So it's kind of how we work on house renovations around here. Just kind of give the kids a little task or something to do, or they can help clean or something like that. And they just love helping pitch in while we're trying to get things done. Here's my little outline that I created from my cut file that I made on my Design Space Studio, whatever it's called now, software for Cricut. And I am just adhering this outline down to my photos here. I have all the photos trimmed down. I just like to layer them as a collage, cut them where I need to. I like to make some of them kind of go diagonal and into different shapes and things, but I think I did a pretty good job filling that up. There's a couple corners and little pieces that aren't quite covered, but once I put this outline on, you're not really going to tell because that's going to cover some of those pieces up. And then I'll probably end up filling some of those in with embellishments as well. So if you have a couple little bare spots, it's really okay because you can just embellish around it and no one's going to know. So I'm just going to tack that little piece down that didn't quite get tacked down on the first run. And I was going to use this beautiful wood grain paper from the Coco Vanilla Studio Great Escape collection. I ended up changing it to this one because I just really liked the green and pulling out that green in the photo of him with his little John Deere zip up on the kind of like the top left there. And I just really thought that background paper really made all these photos pop. So I really liked that. I went with the trees instead. And then I was deciding which acrylic piece that I wanted to use, and I ended up using this Stay Wild. These are by Color Cast Designs, and then I'm going to adhere that down with some Nuvo glue here in a bit. And I decided to pull out these little wood alphas. They're not actually wood, but they look like wood. They're just foam thickers, but they have that wood grain design on them, and I'm going to put down his name here. The zeros that I was going to use kind of looked a little weird because the wood grain went a different way on them because of the way that they printed when they manufactured them. So I ended up switching them out and using the O's instead, which is what it should be anyways. But I thought, well, I'm just going to use the zeros up because they're at the very bottom. But I just ended up using the O's. So I've got some embellishments here that I'm pulling out from the die cut ephemera pack from that Great Escape collection, and I am going to use some of these little banner pieces. I'm going to use a bunch of these stars. Some of the stars I have actually cut already from one of the patterned papers in this collection. You can see at the top of my frame there, I have some of that left that aren't cut out. I'm going to actually use a couple of more of those and cut them down. I'm going to create a little cluster here on the side and then another cluster at the very top left, just to kind of give my layout some balance and fill that in a little bit. I am going to leave quite a bit of white space on this layout. It's a pattern paper background, which I haven't done in a while, actually. I want to mention that I usually stick with white backgrounds and really do heavy embellishing, but I am using a pattern paper background, so I want that to be very well known today. So yay! But sometimes it's a struggle for me to use a pattern paper background. I just feel like I get overwhelmed with too much pattern, and some people are just so good. Like my one friend, MJ, she's so good at using pattern paper on her layouts all the time, and she mixes patterns together and it just turns out so good. And if I try to do that on mine, I hate it, and it looks like I barfed all over my page and I just can't do it. So that's why I'm typically sticking with white layouts most of the time. So I've got some stars here. I'm going to continue filling in some of these spaces. I'm going to cut a couple of them down so I can use on two different sides, and just layering things up, seeing what else I want to add at this point. I've got some wordy bits there on that sticker sheet on the right that I'm going to pull off and use at the bottom of the layout. I'm going to grab some foam squares, pop some of these up, and I'm also going to add some of those cute little epoxy stickers. They're kind of like shiny and puffy, and they're really super cute, but they have little stars and they look like little circles like planets, and they're just really cute. So I'm going to grab a couple of those and just kind of scatter around my layout, kind of like I would with sequins, but I'm actually not using sequins today. I know that's another shocker. I'm using a pattern paper background, and I am not using sequins today. Two big shockers for me, because that's usually two things I always use is white backgrounds and sequins. So, and stitching is another one of mine too. I usually use stitching of some shape or form, but I'm not using that today either. So I'm going a little bit out of my comfort zone, but this layout's going to turn out great, and I think you guys are going to like how it looks at the end when I get everything stuck down here. It was a really fun one. I really hope that people play along with it on the cherry message boards, because it's a really super fun challenge. It's a great way to use up a lot of those photos and get them on on your page, or just be inspired by a large number or alphabet letter. Like if you have a name like I have, I'm using O for his name today. If you have a milestone birthday like 5 or 10 or anything like that, you can use that number as your inspiration, and then just put your photos on top or make a collage like I did. So anything goes with this, really, but we really just want you to be inspired by that large alphabet letter or a large number for your layout. And then if you do play along with this challenge, make sure that you post your take on the layout on the Cherry message boards. Again, I will link that below so that you can just click on that and go directly to it, or you can find it on the Cherry message boards under the contests and challenges. And if you just click on the master list for January 2025, you can find it on that list as well. So easy peasy. Make sure you check out the other creators, Nicole, Sarah Scraps, and Natalie Dill, that are all playing along with this challenge with me today. And their videos will be posted today as well. So I will link all of those below for you so you have easy access to their inspiration too. And I'm just finishing this one up by adding those wordy bits to the bottom of this. I'm just choosing a few of these phrases. I'm just going to scatter them across the bottom here, just kind of making them a little bit wonky. My one peeled off with the sticky part still attached, like the backing on it. Sometimes they peel off weird off that sticker sheet, so I had to mess with it a little bit, but it's fine. And then these are those little fun, puffy, kind of epoxy looking stickers. I'm going to add a few of those and just kind of sprinkle them around my layout, kind of like confetti. That one orange star that you see on the left there above that wild, I actually cut that in half. I'm going to end up using the other half because you guys know I love to recycle and I love to use my embellishments and things to their fullest extent. So I'm going to end up using that here in a second and tucking that in. So I have this little star. I was just thinking about where I wanted to place it, and I settled on this area up here. So I'm just going to go ahead and adhere that now, and then that guy will be good to go. I do kind of rough up the edges and pull them up off the page. I feel like it looks a little bit nicer to have a little dimension. And then here I go bringing in some thread. You know me and my stitching and my thread. I got to have my typical things on all my layout. I feel like I could probably make you a recipe card of things that I use on every single layout, and it would seriously apply to all of mine. So I'm just going to pop that up with a 3D foam square. I've threaded that through my little compass there, and then I'm just going to glue down the tails of this thread so it's not all over the place and kind of going wonky in my book whenever I place it into my album. So that's pretty much going to do it for this one. I'm just sticking everything down at this point, making sure everything is attached. And then I'm going to grab some white acrylic paint here and water it down a little bit and flick some on to create some white splatters. That's also one of my favorite things that could go into my recipe card. So that's gonna do it for this one. I'll link everything that I've used down below in the description in case you want to grab anything from the Cherry shop. And here's the finished layout. I hope you guys enjoyed this process and this challenge today, and I hope you can play along. And thanks so much for being here, and I hope I've inspired you to create something. Bye-bye!